Walking in Aloha Let's Talk Story podcast. Today we're joined by Felicia S. Collins. I know I looked it up and there's another Felicia Collins, so I'm glad you dropped that S in there. Also known as Kate Coach B, the Worth Activator. She's a mompreneur, combat army veteran, author of Bloom by Spirit, Daily Seeds for Women of Worth, and the visionary behind Daily Global Women of Worth, a movement creating safe spaces where women can heal, rebuild, and rediscover their worth. With over 15 years of leadership experience, wow, that's a long time, Felicia brings both strength and heart to every conversation. As Romans 8:37 says, we are more than conquerors through him who loves us. And Felicia lives that truth. Let's welcome Coach Fee, the Worth Activator. Welcome. Thank you for
Oh,
being here.
thank you for
How are
having
you
me today.
today?
I'm doing great. Great. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. I'm so glad to have you. 15 years. That's a long time. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So I joined the military at a very young age. I was 17. Um, I was not really sure where my journey would take me, but I decided, you know what? I don't think I'm ready for college right now. So I'm going to go to the military. I know I can go there. They'll pay for my college and I'll be able to still help, my family. So I decided to take that leap. I will tell you, my mom was not very happy at such a young age. But I began my journey then, and I traveled. Been to Hawaii, which was my second duty station. So that was great for
Nice.
me. I had my two daughters there, Ayana and Leanna. It was a great experience. I love the culture, love the people. And I also did my deployments there as well. So 4 deployments, great experience. And from there, I came back to the States in Texas. And I found myself about maybe 11 years in, and I'm like, you know what? Not sure if this is still for me. Had some good times, some not so good times, and the memories, it's like yesterday. They're, when you leave, you don't leave the memories. They follow you. But it was an overall great experience, and that brought me into civilian life, working with the government as well, continuously. It's like it was a never-ending thing for me. So those 15 years were put in a lot of work, and it came to a conclusion back in 2020. So, and now I am a mompreneur and I'm building my businesses, hopefully helping other single moms and women do what they love to do and serving their purpose.
Oh, that's so awesome. And I love it that you came to Hawaii and experienced the culture here in Hawaii. I always tell people that, aloha. I use the Aloha Always Framework, but aloha has so many different meanings, especially here in Hawaii. I was born and raised here, and we were taught to live aloha because it's not just hello and goodbye. Aloha is love, aloha is respect, aloha is gratitude. And I tell people, when you know aloha, when you lived aloha, take it with you and spread that around. But the way that I use aloha and the way that God has given me aloha is that when I wrote my book, Walking in Aloha 5 Steps to Living Your God Potential Life, I didn't know how to write the book at first because I've never written a book. It's like, Lord, if you need me to write this book, you need to help me. And so I asked and I said, what do I do? And he said, I gave you everything in aloha. And I said,
Mm.
how is that? So I started writing, and it was through the affirmations and actions, leadership and love, overcoming obstacles, health and healing, and the acute awareness that I was able to go from that hurt and that feeling of being silenced and powerless to where I am today. And now I do what I do and I help other people to have a voice. And that's why I bring people on my podcast and share their stories. And so I would love to go through the Aloha Always framework with you. And I just find that no matter where people are in the world, they walk in aloha the same. And that's one thing that I love because, like I said, once you know aloha, you walk through it without even knowing. I've interviewed people all over the world. I mean, literally all over the world. I spoke to people in Saudi Arabia, in Australia, in Spain, and I always wondered, Lord, how do you expect me to reach
You're
reach the
reaching.
masses, right?
You're
You know, how
reaching.
do you expect me to reach the masses? I'm one person on a little island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And this is how he's shown me how I'm doing it, and I thank God for that. So, now we'll do the Aloha framework with you. And I thank you for that. Oh my gosh. I'm always so excited to hear everyone's story and how they walk through Aloha. So let's just jump right into it because I'm so excited to hear your story. Affirmations and actions. Okay. First of all, when we start with affirmations and actions,
Okay.
how have you often people talk about that, right? So you often talk about moving from survival to truly living. What daily affirmations or actions help women start believing in their worth again? Okay, because I know for myself, going from that place of domestic violence, that takes a lot of your worth. You
Mhm.
feel absolutely worthless. You're like, how did I get here? So, how do you help me?
Like you, it's a kind of a sensitive area. For me, there's unfortunately there's multiple areas, but I will give one specific for myself. Um, I had a situation where when I was in the military, I was a soldier still, and I had an issue. I reported the issue. Nothing was done about the issue. I'm just summarizing this. So I don't want someone else out there maybe get a glimpse of this. And what I ended up hiding that came to light after I got out the military was MST,
Mm,
military sexual trauma. So for me, I was very numb. Uh, I put it in a box, put it on a shelf, you know, and when I had an incident with my daughter, it resurfaced and I had to deal with it. Very painful. But I think what changed my perspective on that was just writing, journaling down my feelings, all of the things I felt. I put it on paper because I wasn't able to speak it, but I lived it. So I started
mhm,
writing. With that writing, I began to wonder, am I supposed to help someone else with this? Why is this resurfacing now? Did I do something wrong? All of the questions, all of the things that we ask ourselves. And for me, that was more of me realizing whatever happens to you, it's not a thing of it's your fault or not. It's just understanding and owning, those experiences are what shapes you. And they are a part of your identity, whether we choose to own that or not. They still make you you. And that was the first step for affirming that for me in the change, because I had to realize this is a part of me. What I'm meant to do with this may not feel comfortable, but sometimes, God does not give us things for us to be comfortable. Sometimes things happen in our lives for us to share with other people, for them to know that they're not alone. for them to know that they're not broken, you know. So for me, that was the biggest step. Um, as far as affirmations, I had to find my worth again. And it is honestly a daily walk. But for me, that was the first step. And then finding community, a group, or talking to other women. For me at that time, I was a single mom when this popped back up in my life. So I began to talk to other single moms and share, that sensitive topic. And you'll be amazed to learn how other people are going through other things similar to what you're going through when you're not afraid to speak up about it. And I think as women, we have to respect that with each other and know that, wow, everyone has a story, as you say, Michelle. And a lot of the things, when we talk and open up, we find that we have so much more in common than what we think. I think honestly, we try to be this strong person, this strong woman, and we try to hold ourselves to some higher standard. And I think the world has made it that way for us in some ways, whether you're married, have kids, or, you know, um, you're a mom or an empty nester, and you've held that, you held the title, and we hold ourselves to this standard that we have to do, know, be all of the things. That is not true. We have to take care of ourselves. We have to learn to nurture ourselves first. um and honestly, it is speaking identity over ourselves, and not the task, not the things. Those are just extra, but who we are. We have to know that we have our own personal worth and own personal purpose outside of all those titles. So I would say that I am not lost. I am what I'm becoming. And I shared this briefly in my worth activation method, which the first tool is called the mirror tool. For me, it's just realizing the starting point is for awareness and truth, where you're realizing, yes, these are the things that I've experienced. Yes, they are a part of me, but they are not a reflection of who I am. And it's what I am becoming. So, daily worth work is not perfection. It's a progression with grace, giving yourself grace.
That is so good, so powerful. Like you said, to speak up and to speak out and know that there's other people that will listen, because I know that for me, having that where someone is telling you that no one will listen,
Mm.
no one is going to want to hear what you have to say, no one's going to believe you, and that's where your self-worth is lost, because you're like, yeah, who's going to believe me, who's going to want to hear me, you know and but to have that and to be empowered by that and being like, you know what, there is people who are going to listen, there are people who want to hear me, and my words, my worth, is important.
Mhm.
So in Proverbs 18:21, it says, the tongue has the power of life and death. How do you personally, I know you spoke about it a bit, but how do you speak life over yourself? Because I know as a coach, I know we all go through it. As a coach, it is hard. We've already gone through our stuff and we've healed, but it's giving it away now. It's giving it away to other people, and you need to continuously pour back into yourself. How do you speak life back into yourself and over yourself?
Well, daily for myself, I honestly feel that every day I am growing as a woman, and in order for me to come fully myself as myself, honestly, I still myself have a coach. I have my own coach.
Amen.
I have someone to pour back into me. And I actually also have a therapist. I go to therapy still once a month. So for me, that's the first in realizing that I still have to take care of me. And that is the way I choose to do that. I've started back writing. I still journal. And a lot of things have changed in that aspect for me because I looked at it once upon a time as some sort of weakness. But honestly, if we're all pursuing this walk of our purpose, we have to know that we need help along the way. And nothing that we can truly do can be done by ourselves, you know? So that is very important to me. Um, I have my faith, prayer is definitely a top thing for me. I do that most of the times before I even decide to do something or engagement, or I just, pray over it and ask for God's guidance. That's very important. And I had like a simple faith, kind of a rewiring of faith when, this may have happened to you before where you knew you were supposed to do something, but you second guess yourself. I think sometimes, that's more of you becoming to terms to be able to speak life over yourself. Speak the positive things, speak what God sees you as and what He's called you to be. That definitely does help, because you know just because you're speaking life over yourself is not saying that you're denying the pain or what you've endured
Mhm.
either. I need people to understand that. But I feel, like you said, our words have the power. I honestly believe our words have the power to heal or otherwise. And it starts with your belief. What do you believe about yourself? And honestly, if we're believing, those positive things, we need to speak more of it. Even if you feel shaky or afraid inside, and that is totally normal. I need people to know that is normal. But how we speak the things about ourselves, it kind of is a reflection of what could be or what could not be, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because you're basically declaring your purpose through your words that you speak. um and like you said, honestly, I believe that the tongue activates the truth God already placed in us. Basically, that's what we're doing. We're activating the truth that God has already placed in us when we speak life over ourselves.
I love that. Activating the truth.
Hmm.
I had another guest on, and it is what we say, right? How we speak it. And so we need to be able to speak the truth and speak life. So that is so good.
Absolutely.
So the L in Aloha is leadership and love. So you've led in the army and now in your community. How does leadership look different when it's rooted in worth and service instead of just a position or rank?
Hmm. For me, I would say this was a kind of tough transition for me. And I'll be honest, because for so long, you're in the military and you know, you're getting all the things, you're supposed to do, just show up and do. And I managed to do that very well. I followed those orders very well. But it's now like, okay, there's no more orders. What am I doing? How am I performing this? So yeah, I think honestly, now it's rooted from my personal experience. It's rooted from my worth and me giving my service to other people and servicing them. That is how I lead, by example, by sharing my journey, by sharing my story, showing them that if I can do it, they can too. And it's now about the serving and empowering. It's no longer about the command and the control, if that makes sense. There's no more command, there's no more control. I'm leading with grace. And that's different because, when you're trying to control, you can't lead with
Mhm.
grace. You cannot. I'm just here sharing and allowing my grace to lead, me. And, we have that grace through God. He gives us the grace. He gives us, you know, that's how he shares it with us. And I think it's not about the ego. A lot of things with leadership sometimes can be about, ego or trying to be. this, or the expectation of trying to be at a certain caliber or level, for other people to look at you a certain way. None of those things really matter anymore, because I don't have anyone that I need to be concerned about, but God. And he is my command now. Like, not that I've not ever taken, orders from him at all, but the point is, there's no there is no repercussions, for what I'm doing now, because I'm sharing my story. Whether it resonates with everyone or not, it's still mine. And I'm building this in purpose and sharing it with everyone because I'm being obedient to what God has told me to do. And that makes a huge difference as well. I would say that I'm leading with empathy now, leading women to wholeness and not perfection, letting them know that it's something that happens over time. No one is looking for perfection, not in this, not in what I'm doing. I'm not perfect. I'm still a woman, still learning each day as well. It's kind of like, as Jesus, washing the disciples' feet, being there and showing others, how you lead, and you being able to do it before you're asking someone else to do something. You know, for me, that true leadership is lowering ourselves to lift others.
Right. That is so good, because that is the truth. We need to lead by example, and lead in love.
Mhm.
Because when I was going through, excuse me, let me take a drink. When I was going through what I was going through, I had to actually tell myself that I needed to lead myself
Mhm.
out of what I was going through. And I had to love myself enough to lead myself out of that, because a lot of times we are looking at what other people are expecting of us,
Perception.
what, yeah, what needs to be seen, and when you are leading as a coach, as a entrepreneur, as now your own, like you said, you don't have someone telling you, you don't have the orders. So where does your orders come from? It comes from, like, for me, for you, it comes from God, and we know where we are right now and who we serve. So we're like, okay, Lord, what do we need to do? We need to serve other people. And how do we lead? We lead by example. We lead by who we are and what God has brought us through. And so, like you said, when Jesus washed the feet of his disciples, what was he doing? He was leading by example. He was showing them he is not just the master, but he is the servant. He will serve and follow me as this way, right? So you're going to serve other people, and you are perfectly fine to be the one to
Mhm.
wrap the towel around yourself and get down on your knees and wash the feet of another person. You
Yeah.
are perfectly fine to do that, no matter what level anybody else looks at you as.
Mhm.
Because what did they say? They were like, "No, master, you are not washing my feet." you know, you, you cannot, you cannot possibly do that, But he said, if you don't, let me wash your feet,
Mhm.
right? Because yeah, how else, if we don't do what we do, if we don't stay up late at night,
Oh goodness. 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock,
right? If we
after the
don't,
kids are in bed.
exactly, right? If we don't do what we do that other people don't see, if we don't give of ourselves that other people don't see, if
Mhm.
we don't lead the way that we lead and only God knows of, how would we ever do the things we do? How would we stand and be the people we are, like right now?
Mhm.
We wouldn't be able to. And so it is a powerful place that you stand in as the Worth Activator, because you are doing this for the multitude of women that come after you. So that's why it's such an empowering place for you to be. And I know, and I say it all the time, is that when we do what we do, we give permission for other people to do the same.
Yeah,
So,
that's
and
true.
as Jesus showed that when he left, what did they do? They did what Jesus did, and they
Yeah.
brought everyone else after, right, to do the same. And as millions, no, I don't know how to say millions of years, but you know what I mean, we are still doing it today. So that's what we do. We lead in love. So Jesus taught us how to love one another. How has love, how has learning to receive God's love shape the way you love and lead others? I know that we just already spoke about that like fully, but I know that, and you have children also, so you have to
Yeah.
be able to do that with them too.
So, how has he shaped? Oh wow,
Yeah.
in so many ways. It's kind of like I would pray over time for Lord to give me more patience. I'm just using that as an example. And I still tell me and my friend chat, and I'm like, girl, they are driving me up the wall today. And she's like laughing. She's like, you cannot tell me that God does not have a sense of humor, because we stay praying and asking Him for help with different things. And the way He helps us is unfallible. Like, really? You,
Yeah.
I pray for you to give me more patience, and you give me more.
Yeah.
And I have to learn learn the patience in that. I said, hey, I didn't ask for you to teach me patience. I said, give me patience. So it's in the learning. It's in the learning. And
Yeah.
I am very thankful for the way he has showed me these different things. And I've had to actually dive deep to find the means to do it. And that is him showing us love, whether we want to believe it or not. It's him in those times that he's giving us what we need. It's not what we asked for, but he's giving us what we need, not what we want. Because I know a lot of times we look for these quick fixes and think, oh, yeah, give me that. I'm like, there's a reason. There's definitely reasons that he gives us the things the way he does, and that is him showing us love, whether we want to believe it or not, because God sees, furthermore, he knows everything about us. He sees all of the things future wise that we cannot see. You do not know what you're walking into. You do not know if he gives you exactly what you asked for in that moment, how that could change the trajectory of your life. So I have learned to take everything as love and just say, you know what? I trust you. I trust you, Lord. I trust that you have another reason for me to have to walk through this season this way. You have a reason for me to have to dig deep to try to love that person who has wronged me. I have to walk and dig deep in, whether it's words, in prayer, and praying for those other people, but there's reasons behind it. And you know what? That has come a part of who I am now, because as I sit here and I look back over time and all of the things, the decisions I've made, and as a whole collectively, I know that it could have been worse. But God was right beside me the whole time. And it wasn't that he wasn't there. Sometimes we fail to listen. Sometimes we have that, urge to, I want to do it my way. And guess what? He's still loving us through all those times. And we may not see it, we may not believe it, but to any person who's ever known that they shouldn't have done something or they shouldn't have been in that moment, you reflect back and you're like, wow, it could have been worse. So I thank God that I made it out that way. I'm thankful that I'm here now so I can share and tell that as well, because I know a lot of things that are even going on now. A lot of people think like, where's God in this? Where is he? He's still here. And we have to remember, we definitely have to remember that it is not him who creates certain things, because he created all of us in his own image. But what does he give us? What does he give us? The one thing where he does not try to change our decision. It is it is the reasonable knowledge to know that we have free will. He's given us that free will to make that choice. He doesn't try to persuade us. He's just there, allowing us to choose. And what we have to know and what we have to receive, and we have to take that deep breath and acknowledge that accountability. Yes, you made that choice. So, and I don't know if anyone as a mom, I teach my kids, your choices do have consequences. They do. And as a parent, mothering or fathering your kids, you're teaching them.
Mhm.
You're
Yeah.
teaching them. And so this is the same as our father. It's a learning process. And he still loves us just the same.
So good. That is true. You talk about praying for patience. And as I was raising my kids, I did the same. And I'm like, oh Lord, just give me patience. And it was like, you have to realize that it is through trial that we learn patience. And I was like, oh Lord, I didn't ask for the trials. I just want the patience part. But
No.
he's like, how do you learn patience if I can't give you the trials, right? To
Hmm.
learn the patience. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe I need to change my prayer. Lord, give me grace.
I've done that one too.
So you start praying differently. Father, give me grace so I'm not like gonna choke my children. It's so funny, but as parents, we all know it. I mean, we can laugh about it, but I can tell you right now that if any parent are they they would be, I would say, lying if they don't say that there's trials, because there's going to be trials. There's going to be trials, but yes, having to know that we can lean on the Lord, that we can have Jesus, and we can take that times of taking that breath and being like, Lord. And then you look back and you're like, oh, thank you, Jesus. There's so many good times. There's so many times when you're like, wow, we've got through that. And now look at where we are now.
Exactly.
And now I have 8 grandchildren,
Oh my
and
goodness.
I see I see my kids raising their kids, and I do what I do now in that whole thought of I just want to leave a legacy for my kids and
Hmm.
grandkids, and all the things that went on before, and the good and the bad and the ugly. Those are
Right.
all things of the past, and we just live through it, and we're like, I have to apologize for a lot of the things that we went through before, because we don't have like care manuals for each child that's born,
Mhm.
and they're all totally different, and things will happen as life comes up. But you're like,
Absolutely.
no, we, our parents before us didn't have it either,
Right.
you know,
They do the
and
best
they
they
didn't
can.
have it. I know, right? The ones before didn't have it either. So, and we're all surviving and we're all learning. And that is the great thing, because I see it in my daughter and I see it in my kids now, that they're learning and they're doing, and I can honestly say, wow, they're doing better than me. And so, if that's the way that it works, if that's the way that life works, and if that's the way that God works, then I am okay with that. That if
Yeah.
the mistakes that we made caused some ripple effect that we do better, then they do better, then let it be that
Yeah.
it continues that way and everyone does better after. And what we can do is continue to leave that legacy for them to go forward.
Yes.
So good. So good. So, overcoming obstacles. Just want to check. I don't want to have to skip anything because it's so good. It's so important that we go through. Overcoming obstacles. You face battles both on and off the battlefield. Can you share a moment where God helped you overcome something that felt almost impossible?
Whew, okay.
Because I know that we all go through something like that. Oh, so hard.
Yeah. So, hmm. Um, it's a little sensitive. Uh, After I got out of the military, I would say I ended up going through a divorce, a separation. Um, and that was very hard. Um, and trying to find what's next for me as mom, as a divorcee. And my daughter had turned 13, and they were, both the girls were, they were going visiting dad, the summers. And yeah, it was a huge transition, I'd say. But I have my ultimate strength had to come in where I had to rely solely on just my prayers, my faith, and trusting God to walk me through that, what would be the toughest 3 years of my life. Um, and during those 3 years, there was a lot of negativity talk and self-talk, self-doubt, in and out, just battling what my daughter has has been facing, and realizing that it came full circle, not because of anything I did or her father did, but just because she could not simply deal with the divorce. And it triggered so many emotions for her. It triggered so many emotions that we ended up going through this whole 3 years of non-communicative relationship with the girls and their father. And it was so very hard to deal with, because in this 3 years my daughter was diagnosed with schizophrenia, and I was just not accepting it at all. And I was just like, nope, this is not what this is. As a parent, you're like, I'm going to the doctor. I'm going to see another doctor. I'm going to this doctor. I did the test. I'm calling my mom, his dad, my dad, anyone in the family have anything like this, because a lot of times doctors, diagnose, oh, this is something hereditary, nope. Mom, as a mom, I did all of the things. And I'm just like, why is this happening? What did I do wrong? Did I do, you're doing all the blaming, you're doing all the shifting and trying to find out, but there was no answers. After I poured and did all the things, and over these 3 years, me trying to work, me juggling this job, all ending up FMLA, denied. Use your pension, use your retirement. No, we need you here. Well, my daughter needs me. And as a mother, your children are going to always come first, right? So, yeah, I quit, not one, not two, but three, all three. And I did what any mother would do. I needed a new outlook. I needed something new. I needed to still trust God. And I relocated because we needed a different lens. Um, yeah, a different lens is definitely what I got, but it got worse before it got better. And this was season after season of what felt like, am I in a bad movie? I just kept waking up and seeing the same thing over and over again. And I'm like, okay, God, I can't do this anymore. I'm about to give up. You got to send me some help. You got to send me something. And I met someone in church, and she was sharing her story briefly, her testimony, if you will. And when she shared her story of what happened to her as a child, you know, and I was just like, okay, God, this is her. This is gonna be the woman that's gonna help me with my daughter. This is gonna be the person that's gonna help me. And I was so thankful when I was able to just speak to her after church. Before I could even, it's like she just knew what I was going through. And she was there for me for those next years in more ways than one. She came to my home. She prayed with my daughter. She just talked to her and shared her story. And this was so tough. Oh, it was really tough. Because what a lot of people didn't know that knew me or knew of me, they didn't know the ins and outs of what really was going on and how deep this ran. But she was able to talk to my daughter and dig the root of the problem, dig up the root of the problem. And the root of the problem was my daughter was so shattered again by what happened with me and her dad's relationship that she began to internalize that there was something wrong with her, that there was something that she did wrong. And when I tell you, by the time she finished talking to her, walking with her, praying with her, my daughter started to change. And the changes I saw with her behavior, going from the worst you could imagine, or probably even worse than what you can imagine, just watching her transition into a now back to herself, bubbly, outgoing, spunky, funny girl, who still to this day has memory lapses or memory issues. And thank God she doesn't remember a lot of the things that she did. Oh, wow. I don't think she could cope with it. But where she is now is nothing like where she was. And I have learned to accept that as a mom, it is not my job to try to figure out the why. It is my job to still love, accept, cherish her just as she is. And that has been the hardest thing for me to do, regardless of the reasons of why, what transpired in those 3 years, or the why she would do certain things, or the why of the result of what happened in that time. Only God knows those reasons. And it is not for me to try to get those answers. Because in those 3 years, I was so wrapped around trying to find out the why. I was not realizing I am supposed to still just do the walking, do the growing, do the sharing with her, that you love her, that you care about her. She is seen, she is heard, all of the things that I should be doing as a mother. But I was so concerned otherwise of trying to figure out why this is happening. What did I do wrong? And I've had to learn to forgive myself for things. And I've had to ask her for her forgiveness, to forgive me for the things that she felt I should have been doing, that I wasn't doing for her. And for me, that has been the toughest thing. And even the forgiveness of, you know, her father, I just am here to try to support her. And I've had to pray about the things that I can't control, and allow God to work those things out how he sees fit. And that has took a lot of courage. It has took a lot of time, a lot of prayer, and a lot of grace for me to give myself grace in those areas, because as a mom you cannot compensate for every single thing. And I've had to learn that I cannot compensate for things that someone else does not do. And it is okay that I don't have all the answers, and it is okay that I can't control everything. And it's absolutely what we try to do sometimes. And we have to learn to let go. And when I have been able to do that, it has relieved so much more pressure off of me. It took so much off of me as a mom, and realizing that, you know, grace, grace. And my friends have to keep reminding me, Felicia, give yourself grace. Your children are safe. They're healthy. They have a home. They have someone who loves them. They have someone who cares for them. And you are enough. There it is. You are enough.
Yeah.
And if I remember that, and remember that's what God has told me, that I am enough, then I'm able to do anything through him, with his grace, with his faith, with my faith through him. I am. And as a mom, you have to know that. It doesn't matter what it looks like for anybody else. You have to know what and that was tough. And that, I don't know how the survival skills came, but for me, I feel like it was an internal spiritual strength that I was given, because I call it one of my tools that I use in my worth activation method. It's kind of like the parachute. It's so weird. Parachute tool, where you're gonna fall. We all are gonna fall at some point, right? And what I find it is crazy how we do when we know we're gonna fall. We're frantic. We're trying to figure out what's going to be like, or how am I going to land, or you know all of the things. But that faith, the faith, where's that faith? We have to remember to have that faith and keep that faith. And overall, the faith, we have to have the peace of knowing that God is in the fall. He's going to be in the fall with us. So
Mhm.
imagine God being your peace in that fall,
Right.
and just letting go, and just close your eyes and have the peace of knowing that he's going to guide you in that fall. There's no way of getting around the fall, because the fall happens to all of us sometime in our lives. But we have to allow him to be the peace in the fall.
So powerful. That is so good. And I just love that, you know, God sends his earth angels
Mm-hmm.
in the times that
Yeah.
we need them, and having that person walk step into your lives at the time that she did, you know, and it is during those times when we least expect it that you're like, wow, God showed up, you know,
Yeah.
and changes your life, that changed your daughter's life, and you can see from that point till today that that made all the difference, and it was through that one person that stepped in, and I just love that because it happened with me too. I went to the doctor, and it was not even a doctor that I normally went to, and it was a new doctor. Went to him the first time, and he asked if I wanted the guy that I was with to come in, and I was like, yeah, and it was because you don't say no. You're not gonna say no, let him stay
Mm-hmm.
outside. But I said okay. And then the second time he knew that something was wrong, and he told him, you're waiting outside. And when I stepped in, he asked me, are you okay? And he knew exactly that there was something wrong, and I was able
Mm-hmm.
to share what I was going through, and it changed the course of everything else afterwards. And the same with you, how that one
Mm-hmm.
person stepped in and it changed the course of everything else afterwards. And it is just the way that I think God works in our lives, and how if we put that trust in him, and like you mentioned, the parachute. And I know that you're like, oh, it's crazy parachute, but it is true, is
Yeah.
true. And as a soldier, I mean, you must know about parachutes. But when I don't know anything about parachutes, but I know that you pack your own parachute. You pack
Mm-hmm.
your own chute. And in your walk with the Lord, it's a personal relationship with God. No one can actually people can bring you to church, or like my parents, they taught me about God, my grandmother or whatever, but it is a one-on-one. Yeah, that is
Mhm.
what everyone needs to realize, is that your
Yes.
walk with the Lord is a one-on-one. And we can bring our children to church, and we can do all those things, and we can lead them, but all in all, when the bottom line hits,
It's
it
a
is
personal.
a personal relationship,
Mhm.
and you have to lean on him one on one. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, it's that parachute. You need to pack your own chute, and you need to depend on him, because he is the only one that will be with you in that fall.
Yep.
And we're all going to fall, like you said. So, everyone listening here, you got to remember that you're going to fall sometime, and you need to pack your own chute. So, and the health and healing, the H in aloha. Healing
Mhm.
is such a big part of your message.
Yeah.
How do you help women tend to both their soul and their physical health in this journey?
Hmm. Well, this I've shared a lot of different things, and I hope that we're not overwhelming anyone in this
No,
because
it's
it's
okay.
just
It
so
is so much.
much. It is so
It,
much. And I have been praying about trying to choose one story or one focus. And God's just sitting over here laughing at me because there's not really a way that I can choose one because I am all of the things. I'm very unique, and it's probably not a lot of people who have experienced all of the things. So I feel that it is of me to share all of the things. Um, I would say, through like I was mentioning with the worth activation method, I had someone DM me. I guess they maybe saw something I posted on Facebook, and they're like, "Oh, this is great. I'm curious. How did you come up with this?" And I just kind of chuckled. I'm like, it's a very long story, but to shorten it, you know, I honestly just realized that this is what the name just came about because of me reflecting on the journaling and all of the things that I've wrote that I've endured in the ways that God was shaping me through each event that happened in the time I've been, on this earth. And I realized that what he was doing was walking me through the fruits of the spirit. And that's something probably that a lot of people would have to really like go back and kind of rewatch or something and see that. But he was walking me through the fruits of the spirit. And I kind of use the fruits of the spirit um, in my activation method to help women to see themselves just as God sees them first. And that's where these tools come in when I mentioned about the mirror tool. And you have the mirror tool, and I talked about the parachute tool. I have the compass tool. um so it's five areas that all like bring about, but really they're all grown through the fruits of the spirit. And I felt like in each part of what I was going through, that God was walking me through, was nurturing each one of those fruits in my life. And that's where my health and healing, began to change with the praying, the journaling, realizing that um, I am not what I've been through, that I am worthy, and seeing myself just as he sees me. So that is a bigger part of the picture. I need women, to see themselves as God sees them through their body, soul, and spirit, because they're all connected. So that's very important. And that's the start of their healing journey, with the acceptance of realizing that. And that's what I try to coach them on. And I don't do it from a perfect standpoint. As long as they're in that season where they're able to accept what they have been through, that's a perfect place for them to be able to be coached into, learning and then doing their purpose, as they walk with God. So I would say that, yeah, that's about how I can summarize that.
Oh, that's so good. That is so good. Because, yeah, like there is a lot. And whenever I have anyone walk through the 5 steps of Aloha, the 5 pillars, they do bring up a lot. And it's true. There's no way that we can get everything in within the time that we have
Mhm.
here. So we will share how to connect with you after we're done so people can get connected with you and learn more about you. Was there a season where you personally experienced God's healing in a way that shifted everything in you? I know that you kind of mentioned about that, but was there a season?
I would say I mentioned just a season because I've had many seasons
Uh-huh.
where he's constantly had to do those things with me. But I'll mention the peak season where the
Yeah.
transition was for me and where I came to be how you see me now. That was more recently than a lot of people actually would know. Um, my friend um, turned 45 this
Mhm.
past June, and I had already come to grasp that I needed to do what God had placed in my heart to do. I had already come to terms with that, but it was just me being a little, eh, kind of like. So I ended up joining her in Dubai this past summer, and at first I had no intention of going. I'm not gonna, I had no intention because I'm like, I'm a mom. I have 3 kids. I can't leave my kids home, you know. And she's like, I knew you would say that. So what she do? She paid for everything up front, and I'm like, what? So it's like, I could not
You have
not
to go.
go. I had to go, right? So of course she allowed me grace, and I just paid her back monthly, and she was like, okay, whatever. But I ended up joining her, and while there was so much going on, so many activities, so many friends and everyone there celebrating, I told her that I would not probably participate in everything, and she was just so happy that I was there, and she's like, oh no, take your time, come to whatever you want, enjoy. I'm just so happy that you had this time for yourself. And I'm so grateful and thankful for her, because in realizing she has been one of those people that have been able to see in the backside of what I've been enduring and walking through in my life. So I'm very grateful to have her as a friend as well. But during a couple of those days, I sat. I remember one night just walking out on the balcony and just looking out and just taking a deep breath, and closing my eyes and then opening up and realizing, like, do you know where you are? Like, it was like, do you know where you are? You know, because you have imagined that you'd be able to be, in this country, in a different country, just, totally relaxed and just in peace, and for me, that was one of the moments that I was like, wow. It was more of one of those clarity moments where I felt God whispering, can you imagine your life like this? Can you imagine how many women's lives that you could affect for their lives to be this way? And I'm just like, what? I'm like, what are you saying? And it was like, I've already given you the tools you need. I've already showed you what you need to do. And it was more of a clarity and kind of like, I'm giving this to you again, that nudge. And I needed that second nudge. I needed the reassurance that he was going to be with me as he walked me through, those steps.
Yeah, that is
And
so good.
yeah, so that's where that all became. And I came back home, just I've been running ever since, it seems like. And I've met people, women, coaches, speakers. I've met you, and I shared that briefly when we first had this conversation. It was just like, God has the connections already lined up for us. Sometimes we just have to take that step, and we just have to go with it. But he
So
already has
good.
it lined. Yeah.
So good, because that just goes right into that acute awareness, the last A in Aloha, because right there he showed you that acute awareness. He gave you that acute awareness. And you speak about, like finding your why, and how can women become more
Mm-hmm.
aware of God's unique calling on their lives, because right there you found your why. You
Mm-hmm.
found your, that aha moment in Dubai. So, how can women become more aware? How do you think women can become more aware?
Of their why.
Yes, yeah.
Our why is already within us.
Hmm.
It definitely is. It's not something we have to go search for. I strongly believe it's something that we have to dig. And the why is found in your worth. And I always say, your why is your worth. That is something I absolutely believe. And for those who might be like, what do you mean? Explain a little bit. Your why is your worth. Well, when things happen or occur in our life that we're not sure of why it happens, and we start to question ourselves, we start to um, build all of the things, that become burdens to us, and we carry those things, we carry those experiences instead of investing in that parachute and allowing God to, land us where He may. That's the first thing that I think a lot of us should have to do as a woman who trying to deal with those things. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
And when we can come to term with that, and some of us may need some help getting there, and that's totally okay. But that's the number one thing that needs to happen first. And we need to also envision ourselves as God sees us. That's the second. And maybe you could even reverse those roles, because you have to see yourself as God sees you first. And you have to accept and acknowledge that what has happened to you, that doesn't mean that's where you are. That's just what has happened to you. And you have to be okay with accepting that. And
Hmm.
then you get to the part where you find your why. You have to, kind of like a garden, you have to tend to your garden, you have to tend to your giving yourself grace. You have to tend every day through prayer, through journaling, through the things that keep you sane, that keep you flourishing on a daily basis. So the growth is an everyday thing. It's not something that just happens overnight, and that's okay. But in your daily gardening, you're mending the garden, you're watering the garden, you're watering the flowers. What's gonna happen over time? They're gonna bloom, they're gonna bloom. So
Yeah.
with that, I'm thinking in my mind, this is how we get to the point to where, at the end, it's a continuous thing. And when you're gardening, you're mending, you're growing, and in that you find your worth, in that you find your purpose. And that's where my purpose evolved from. Me just mending my garden and sharing my story. That is your purpose. I'm here now with the coaching, with the speaking. If I wouldn't have realized that the things that shape us are the things that happen to us, in those things that we look at as such negative things that we feel have to be hidden for us to be successful. We feel like they have to be, covered up. No, just like our worth, you have to dig. You have to dig. You have to let it be known. You have to let it be shown. And it is only through that that you can begin to mend, yourself and to heal. That is just the only way. Because, if we don't, that garden can't grow, you know. It get filled with a bunch of weeds and, but yeah, that's the start.
That is so good. That's so true. And I always say in Genesis 50:20, where what it says is that what the enemy meant for evil, God will turn into good. So all
Absolutely.
of the bad things that happened in our lives, yeah, we didn't want them to happen. We don't want that for anyone, but God will take what the enemy meant for evil and will turn it to good.
Hmm.
So that is Absolutely powerful what you just said. In Joshua 1:9, it says, "Be strong and courageous, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go."
Hmm.
For someone who's afraid to use their voice, what's one first step of courage you'd encourage her to take today? Because I know for myself, where I was stuck in the silence of domestic violence, there may be someone here today who's looking at us and is like, great, you guys have your voice, but what about me?
I would definitely encourage her to, after this, take a moment, about 5 minute moment, and just think of what your life would look like if you did speak up. What would it be like? What would it feel like? And I would challenge them to journal that down. And if they feel like, okay, that's a heavy load, lift it off, I would challenge them to honestly reach out to someone close to them and try to share a little bit about what they've been through or what they've been experiencing. And then sometimes, we can be like, well, they're a little too close to me. I don't think I want them to know these things. Well, I challenge you to find me. Find me on Facebook, Felicia S Collins, and shoot me a DM. And I have something that I was gonna start next month, which is called a 5 day Flourishing with Grace challenge. And it's a 5 day challenge where it kind of opens up to these types of things, where if there's women who want to share or want to start and they don't know how to start,
Mhm.
it's not something that's so public that you have to share with everyone. It's actually more about the journaling and you learning the ways to do this, but just in a small group of me sharing the information and then you doing what I'm sharing. It's not something where you have to, hey, I'm such and such. This is no. So it's still personal in that aspect of it, and it allows you to reflect. And I give you the tools on how you can do that for yourself, even if you're still finding it hard to communicate what's really going on with you, to share with anyone right now. But I honestly think it's definitely always a good thing to have that sense of community, to feel like you're able to do that. But I do realize there's so many women trying to figure out how to do that. And it's okay that you don't know how. But I encourage you to start at least with your prayer and just journaling and asking yourself, well, what is my why? What is my why? What do you think is your why? Either of the questions you can lead start by writing down whatever comes to you, because I guarantee you whatever comes to you is 9 times out of 10 all the things that you've experienced to lead you right why you're feeling that way. They are all of the things that are going to be built in on your actual why, which is, inevitably going to be a part of what your purpose is. And a lot of people don't, I know some people like, don't believe in the true calling or the purpose. And I'm sorry, I'm just one of those. I strongly believe we all have a purpose within ourselves. And so many of us do not realize what that is. And it's okay that we don't, but a lot of us, we want to know what it is. We go spend our lives 10, 15 years working that job, doing that, you know, oh, being that doctor. I'll use that for an example. You're getting paid the money you want, you're getting all the material things, but there's still something inside of us that's it's not satisfied. And that there's just some things that we can't satisfy with things. And in those things like painting or art, or those things that make you smile, those things that bring you peace, what we fail to realize, some of those simple things is where our worth and our purpose is found. We neglect those things because we think that they're not good enough. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It's what God thinks of us. It's what God sees us. And those ways that are fulfilling to Him, that brings Him back glory, is truly what our purposes are.
Yes,
So
yes, exactly. We are created in the image of God. We are
Mhm.
created by the creator to be creatives, and like you mentioned, art. And I believe that it can be anything, cooking, whatever you do to create, you are created by the creator. And so in his image, that is what we do. And so yeah, to journal. And in Habakkuk 2:2, it says to write it plainly on tablets,
Yes,
so
absolutely.
to write it down. And that is such a good encouragement to have that, and just to write it down, make it plain, and to be able to go back and look at that and say, this is what God is telling me. This is my worth. This is who He created me to be.
Hmm.
Oh, so this has been such a great time with you. Thank you so much for being here. I would love to close us in prayer right now, if you don't mind.
Wonderful.
Heavenly
That's fine.
Father, we thank you so much for this beautiful time of reflection and revelation. Thank you for the reminder through Felicia's story, Lord God, that no battle is wasted in your hands, Lord God, that you redeem, restore, and renew all things for your
Yes.
glory. Lord, help us to see our worth through your eyes
Yes,
and to
Lord.
walk boldly in the purpose you've placed within us. For every listener, Father God, every listener who's been carrying the pain, fear, or doubt, breathe new life into their spirit
Yes, Lord
today,
Jesus.
Lord.
Mhm.
Let them know that their story matters, Father God, that their story matters, that healing is possible, that your love covers every scar.
Yes, Lord
Teach
Jesus.
us to walk in aloha with affirming words, with loving hearts, Father
Yes,
God,
Lord.
overcoming faith, healed spirits, and divine
Mhm.
awareness of your presence in all that we do. We seal this moment in your name, Jesus, our Redeemer, our
Yes, Lord
Healer,
Jesus.
and our hope. We thank you, Lord God, with all that we are and all that we just lay it at your feet, Father
Yes,
God.
Lord.
In Jesus'
In
name
Jesus'
we
name.
pray. Amen. What a
Amen. Amen.
powerful, powerful time we had here with you, Felicia. Thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you for having
Coach
me.
B, the Worth Activator, she reminded us that our worth isn't tied into our past battles, but to God's purpose with our
Mhm.
future. Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans that I have for you, plans to give you hope and a future." That promise was clear in everything that Felicia shared today. Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. If you want to stay connected, visit Felicia at baileyGlobalWow.com. Is that one still good? You're
That
working
is,
on it.
yes, actually,
Working
that
on it,
is a
right?
valid website. It's valid. I just clean it out right now because I'm trying to update some things. But yeah, I would
Okay.
say
Yeah.
24 hours. You can definitely go back.
Okay. Yeah, I know we talked about that earlier. Sorry about that. The
Mhm.
Instagram, at Bailey slash
Bailey underscore
underscore.
global.
I'm like, I always make the mistake of what is that one? Underscore
Yeah.
Bailey underscore global. And remember, walking in aloha means affirming your identity,
Hmm.
leading with love, overcoming obstacles, embracing the healing, and living with awareness, as we spoke about today. And like Felicia said, it is a lot. But we are here. She is here. Reach out. You are not alone. You're never alone. There are people who truly, truly want to listen. And
Hmm.
like we both experienced it, where people tell you that you are not heard, that is a lie. It is a
Yes.
blatant lie.
Hmm.
So know, for everything that we are here, and we can tell you with all that we got, that there are people that want to listen. So
Absolutely.
until next time, everyone, keep blooming where God planted you.
You.
God bless you guys always. And until our next Walking in Aloha Let's Talk Story podcast. God bless you and a hui ho.